What is up, friends? Big Mouth Season 2 just dropped on Netflix, and I really want to talk about it, so let's get into it. Spoilers for both seasons of Big Mouth ahead. Last year, Big Mouth was a surprise hit for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. I continue to absolutely love the way that the horrors of puberty and adolescence are portrayed in the show, especially how they use the various monsters as metaphors for the real emotions that kids deal with. I said in my review last year that while I found it to be profoundly well written and funny, the show made me really uncomfortable. For Season 2, I knew what I was getting myself into, so I didn't find myself as uncomfortable as I did last year, though it obviously still had its moments. The first season ended with Nick finally hitting puberty and meeting his hormone monster, Rick, who is way older and grosser than Maurice. I gotta say, at first I just found Rick to be incredibly disgusting and I struggled through the first episode, but a few more episodes into the season I started to love his brand of humor. His voice in particular really grew on me comedically.
I can never understand you.
Nick's story throughout the season was really funny as he struggles to figure out puberty with Rick as his hormone monster, who seems to give him some pretty terrible advice and just confuse him more, which I guess also describes Maurice and Connie, but Rick's advice seems to show a complete lack of understanding of human anatomy. We first met Rick when we find out he's Coach Steve's hormone monster back in Season 1, which in this season further explains Steve's stunted growth as a character. I actually really disliked Coach Steve in Season 1 and found him to mostly be a gross character, but Season 2 really helps establish that he's kind of just a mentally stunted and ignorant child, which elicits a little bit more sympathy. He's still gross, but it's different when the character can't really help it. I also found him much funnier this year, and his friendship with Jay was actually pretty cute, though he definitely still had disgusting moments that made me a little nauseous. Nick's second hormone monster, Tyler, is a bit of a nightmare, and I'm really impressed that they were able to find so many different ways to portray hormonal feelings that still felt like accurate depictions of various teenagers. Tyler is a newer hormone monster, and he totally sucks, but like Rick, I did start to find him funnier the more I saw him, even if he was incredibly obnoxious. Overall, Nick seemed to succeed with women, specifically with his classmate Gina, played by Gina Rodriguez, despite his hormone monster's terrible advice. Of course, he blew it because he's a dumb kid with different hormones telling him to do dumb things, but I really liked seeing Nick's friendship with Gina develop over the season. Also, here was a fun little Netflix inside joke. Gina's character had a Carmen Sandiego sleeping bag, and Gina Rodriguez will be playing Carmen Sandiego in an animated Netflix series, as well as a live-action movie sometime next year. This season also introduced an amazing new monster called the Shame Wizard, who is played by the legendary David Thewlis. You might know Thewlis best as Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter series. This was another brilliant portrayal of human emotions personified as a monster. We all have that nagging feeling of shame when we do something we're not proud of, and representing that as David Thewlis creepily whispering in your ear is just way too perfect. The Shame Wizard interacted with just about all of our main characters, but mostly with Andrew, who went through quite a journey this season. He briefly dates Lola after they hook up in a hormonal frenzy, and then he feels trapped in the relationship because he doesn't think he can break up with her after they rub fronts. Speaking of Lola, we really learn a lot more about her this season. I generally find her to be an absolutely obnoxious and detestable character, but my god, after learning more about her home life, I feel so bad for this poor girl. I mean, I still think she's terrible, but she definitely seems to be a product of her environment. Missy also grew a lot this year, embracing her sexuality for the first time, which led to some pretty funny moments.
Something really awoke inside of me. Eyebrows.
And Jenny Slate continues to be a comedy legend in the role. Like Slate, Jason Mantzoukas' standout once again is Jay, who has a massive season. Easily my favorite part of Jay's story this season was discovering his sexuality. He kisses Matthew during the game of Smooch or Share, and they end up making out later. By the end of the season, Jay has fully embraced his bisexuality, which makes a ton of sense for the character, and it always makes me happy to see more bisexual representation in media. I also love this quip from Maurice about Jay.
This kid is a goddamn prodigy. I think he's his own hormone monster.
We actually never see Jay talk to his hormone monster. Maybe he doesn't have one, or maybe a different kind of monster is his primary? I don't know, we'll talk about the primary monsters later. Jessie's arc this season was a tough one for her as her parents continue to go through their divorce, and she exacerbates things by acting out. In one of my favorite episodes this season, she finds some THC gummy bears in her dad's stash and convinces Nick to try them with her. This was just filled with really fun, trippy animations, even though I didn't necessarily find them consistent with what weed feels like. Jessie stealing her dad's drugs leads to a huge blow-up between her parents, and her dad is forced to move out, which she completely blames herself for. This starts to lead to her second-guessing her relationship with her hormone monster Connie. The 8th and 9th episodes of the season act as a two-parter, and episode 8 was a little reminiscent of like a BoJack Horseman 11th episode, which are known to be a bit of a downer. The entire episode, you could just see how the various stories were going to crash and burn into a major disaster, and that definitely happened, mostly fueled by the Shame Wizard. This also gave us a really intense and accurate portrayal of how rumors can be spread throughout middle school, and the helpless feelings that come along with life at that age. By the end of the two-part episode, the kids realize that everyone is seeing the same Shame Wizard, and that they shouldn't be embarrassed if everyone is feeling the same way, which leads to a rowdy, shameless party for everyone in the school. The only one who doesn't really participate is Jessie, which introduces us to another monster, the Depression Kitty. The final episode of the season explores the world of of these monsters we've been slowly introduced to, and was easily my favorite thing about this season. The show is first and foremost a really fun exploration of childhood emotions during puberty, but I absolutely love the supernatural monster side of the show. To see them expand on this so effectively was everything I'd hoped for. Nick's hormone monster Tyler gets fired for working with the Shame Wizard and then leaves a portal to his world open in Nick's closet, and Nick, Andrew, and Jesse go inside and discover an entire world of monsters that represent various emotions and bodily functions. Again, I am so happy they expanded on this because the lore is so silly and so fun. I'm hyped to see where they take it in future seasons. We see tons of different hormone monsters, and up to this point we had only met Maurice, Connie, Rick, and Tyler. Jesse stumbles into a meeting where Connie is being evaluated for her work with Jesse, and the other monsters want the Depression Kitty to take over as Jesse's primary monster. I love the idea that various types of monsters can take over as your primary, and I think this opens up a lot of opportunities moving forward. This portrayal of depression was really well handled, especially when the kitty just sort of laid down on Jesse and felt too heavy for her to move. If you've ever experienced depression, sometimes life just feels so heavy that you feel like you can't move. Andrew deciding to embrace and build a friendship with the Shame Wizard was a great end to their story this season as well, and it's super true to life. Shame totally sucks and makes you feel terrible, but it's important to feel shame. If you didn't, everyone would be totally shitty to one another and never feel bad about it. The reveal at the end of the season that Nick's new hormone monster is none other than Connie the Hormone Monstress was perfect. She is easily one of my favorite characters in the entire show, and I'm so excited to see how she handles Nick's puberty. She's already off to a good start. I'm also curious if this will affect Nick and Jesse's relationship. It seems like Jesse will keep Connie as her primary monster, and it will be interesting to see Connie split time between the two of them. Or if Jesse gets a new primary, how will Connie working with Nick affect their friendship? Overall, I think I actually liked season 2 of Big Mouth more than season 1, and that's saying a lot. This show is just so much smarter than anyone ever thought it would be, and it does a great job using ridiculous, gross, explicit humor that actually feels justified within the premise. It's shocking, but I wouldn't classify it as shock humor since it all fits within the concepts of the series. I cannot wait for more of this show moving forward. Alright, thanks so much for tuning into this review for Big Mouth Season 2. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and also comment below. I want to hear what your favorite part of Big Mouth is. And make sure to stay tuned because I have at least one more Big Mouth video planned this year, and I'm really excited about it, so keep an eye out for that. Alright, y'all, peace.
Johnny to Cellos!